Hello, and welcome back to the Argyle Financial Controller Leadership Forum. My name is Brittany Sullivan with Argyle, and it's great to have everyone joining us today. A couple of notes before I turn things over to our speaker. First, a quick reminder to stop by our sponsors' virtual booths at any time during today's event and for the following week. Our partners are committed to providing you with valuable content and a great overall experience. At any time during today's event, you can visit their virtual booths from the main agenda page, which include complimentary materials, information, and meet and greet opportunities. To ask questions throughout the session, simply type into the Q&A chat, and we will address your questions at the end of the session. Now, without further delay, I would love to introduce Niharuna Niranjan, Chief Financial Officer at Master Fluid Solutions. We are excited to have Niharuna with us for a keynote titled The CFO Perspective on Cloud Adoption. Welcome, and over to you.
Thank you, Brittany, and thank you and congratulations to Argyle for putting together this fantastic agenda. I see well over 170 registrations here from senior finance professionals, a lot of participation as well. I'm really happy and honored to be here, kicking off the opening of a promising day to take us through the journey of digital transformation in finance. So as I kick off, let me begin with some background on early finance technology and also take you through cloud adoption, what it means. So what you see on the top left is the earliest known civilization that actually started finance. They're the Sumerians. They started to record sales of livestock on a clay tablet like you see at the bottom left of your screen. So that's where it all started. Now, 5,000 years later, we are still playing the roles of the operator. We're recording transactions, we're the steward, we're protecting assets. But increasingly, and the senior leaders in finance, the CFOs in the room will recognize this, if you just pause and look back at the number of things that you've been exposed to over the last even 5 years, and things that you've learned, things that you've seen just by doing your job, and just look at how your goals have evolved, you will see that increasingly CFOs are called upon to be the voice of reason and calm to the stakeholders. So we're being looked at to help steer the company into the future with data-driven decision-making while we're still on the roller coaster riding so fast. Yep. But how has our tools changed, or what is it that we have available to us 5,000 years later? So if you look at it, we now have more tools. We have data available. Today, with emerging technologies, CFOs have more financial information available than ever before. We have big data, we have predictive analytics, we're using artificial intelligence, cloud computing that's putting data at our hands. If we have internet connection, we can look at any information that we want across the globe. Yeah. So Deloitte had put this together about 10 years ago and said next generation CFOs are now being called upon to play not just the operator and the steward roles, but also to be the catalyst to drive change in the business, to lead them towards the future growth. Yeah, to be part of the strategy, to help make decisions driven by data. And today, the modern CFO, I think most of your job really is playing these parts, right? And at a much faster pace. We don't have months now to look at our data, to analyze, to come up with a decision. We're moving at the pace of the business, which is much faster than we've ever seen. So how do we get to that point with these rapidly evolving technologies and the role that has changed over time? The CFO and really all of the executive finance team were now required to understand, prioritize technology, prioritize investments. Now, all this data that's available to us, these are complex data sets. These are not the simple data that we're used to in the past. So our team now needs to analyze, to interpret these complex data sets. And our role is to take this data and transform it into actionable insights, and at a faster speed. Like I said, while we're still riding the roller coaster. So we're now required to match the pace of the market and business priorities. So if I can borrow the healthcare term today, found new meaning in hurry but don't rush, right? The requirements are moving fast, the market's evolving fast, but our responsibility still is to steer the company to make decisions based on data, not on intuition. So, with so much available to us, how are we doing? Yeah. 46% of the CFOs today say we are still making decisions based on instinct. And about half of the population says, well, our IT systems continue to struggle to give us the information we need. Now, while we're going through this struggle and trying to find data that's easily available to us, quickly help us make decisions, now the cloud is one of the solutions, right? It's given us the ability to use infrastructure that we can access globally easily. But cloud is also now becoming the equalizer. So if you didn't want to spend a lot of money, a lot of time, resources to implement systems, now cloud also offers you the ability to use infrastructure as you go, as you find use for it. So it's fantastic. It's freeing up resources. It also gives you the funds to invest now in strategic growth versus expensive systems, allows us to piggyback on the experts that have been able to invest in it and are able to provide the service to us as we need. With all of this, where are we on the cloud implementation? We should actually have all the data at our fingertips if this was the only data set that we were looking at. So take a quick look at the current state. Now, any conference I go to, any meeting, conference, or peer group discussion I have, about 2/3 of the room tells me that they've accelerated their cloud investments. They're spending more now than ever in technology and investments. However, about 2/3 of the room also tells me that they cannot keep up with rapidly evolving technologies. So there's also a caution here on what to invest. Where is my money better used? Some of the concerns that continue to hold back the finance community is data security, privacy, compliance, the complexity. They remain actually the top concerns. This is what we heard about a few years ago, and 5 years later, we're still battling these challenges. Now, last week, I was in an innovation conference for a software company, and the sessions there were really focusing on zero trust architecture. So while the IT industry is trying to answer some of that security question where they say, can I beef up my security to limit access within the company and with parties outside of the company, we continue to struggle with how much data do we allow to go on the cloud? How does it change the way we work? The other issue we also look at is now the cloud systems or most of your IT implementations today, they have moved from CapEx to OpEx, right? It's a great news. We don't need to borrow now to invest. Don't have to pay a premium, spend time, resources. You can actually use the money where it will give you immediate returns in strategic growth projects. However, almost every CEO I speak with tells me that their goal for this year is to ensure that their focus is cost reduction, to ensure that they have stretched the dollar as much as they can. So now we get into short-term cost pressures. So these changes have now put us back into competing with the budget, right? So we keep waiting now for the one good year that lets us do something for the business. So it's one of the things that's derailing the speed of the investments. The other end, this is more geared towards this community here, right? When we look at capital investments or project investments, in this case, it is very difficult to assess the return on investment. Yeah. When we implement, we look at the project and look at the cost, but it's a pay-as-you-use model. So the more you use it, the actual state of usage of this technology is significantly different. So the cost that we incur on these licenses are significantly different from how we thought through the project. And for large organizations, just the challenge of keeping track of the usage, the cost, and monitoring it, forecasting it based on drivers is a huge challenge. But despite all of this, it's not stopping our efforts to go into modernizing technology, right? It's not. One of the other things I heard in that IT conference was every company is now a technology company, which is really true because um, the number of projects that come to us today is from every function. So every function needs technology to modernize the way they work. So when we look at that, there is a lot of pressure to modernize our investments, our technology, and this is helping us make wrong decisions. Sometimes they're incorrect, sometimes they're just not relevant, and they're based on intuition. Like we saw, about 46%, they still make decisions based on intuition. The other piece I think is very important, and most CFOs agree with this, is our investment in many cases results in what we call hallucinations, right? You take low quality data, you take resources that are not trained on the process well, and then you use that to implement a modern, more advanced system which drives our decisions. But then what we have is not an enhanced decision making tool. What we have is a very expensive current practice. That's the trap that we need to learn to navigate when we make these investments. Um, how many of you have heard this saying, we want to use AI to make my function more current, either to see how much I need to stock in inventory, where in my distribution channel do I need to invest more, where do I market more, how do I make advanced technology decisions. And right after that, they say, well, AI is going to help me and I want to invest in this tool. The third statement you hear is, but we don't want to share all of the data. We don't want to use open the source, but we want to use just the data we have. And investing in such tools is we're actually using historical decision bias. It's not going to help us make better decisions based on the market. So that's the other concern that we're trying to navigate as we go through these implementations. And you'll hear a lot of it as you go through today's sessions and you start talking about finance and AI tools and generative AI and how can we increase our agility. You will see some of these questions pop up again. The last topic here that is a challenge into cloud implementation, and it's not just in finance, but really is the talent that is required to implement. The cloud talent is very rare. It's not available in most places. So most technology companies that have implemented advanced solutions and harness the power of cloud, they're still using it internally. So these systems don't come with elaborate training manuals, but what they do offer is abundant opportunities. The ability to go in and harness whatever we need out of this powerful system. And without training, that's also a place where we actually sell ourselves short. We don't use the entire capabilities of our system or know what we can do with them. Now, knowing this, why are we still focused on digitization? So there are some issues. So how many CFOs have tried to implement this one ERP model or one SAP model? Usually what I find is the struggles go into two paths. Yeah. One is you update ERP instances as they phase out and they come up for updates. And every instance is now slightly better than the other. So they're different processes. If we talk in more relevant finance terms, your product costing, your inventory valuation is now different across each location because each system has its own constraint. So even if you use the same ERP but different instances across, you have different processes. And by the time you come back implementing the last system, the first one's already obsolete. So you keep going in these circles. The other way you can do is you can keep the same instance and you win that homogeneity battle. Your team is not now scrubbing data from every instance and trying to give you information that where you can compare apples to apples. However, this data is now so outdated. and it no longer gives you what you need. So that's where cloud offers a big opportunity. So where you can keep one instance globally, push down all the global policies in there. You can have a global chart of accounts, you have global processes, and you can allow it for localization at the same time. Allows you to be agile to implement changes across and a lot cheaper. But that's one battle that you can win. The other is what you push down, you can also pull up in a homogeneous. So you have the CFOs today, you have unprecedented visibility over operations, can access data from any part of the globe. Yeah, every finance team leader here can actually look and track operations across all departments, across all divisions. If you have internet access, you have data. If you have data, you can make decisions faster. Some of the places where it's been used already, we can use it as we go ahead, no matter where we are in the life cycle, is real-time inventory tracking, shipments tracking, global cache. Are we leaving chunks of inventory cache in different locations? Now, the first thing is visibility, right? Once you build visibility, then you can drive actions. In some companies are actually more advanced than most of us are. Now, Uber is using this real-time data, combining it with market intelligence, and it gives you real-time pricing. So if you take a cab from a location that is deemed more affluent than another, you could pay more for the same cab for the same distance. And if you take a cab at a peak time, you could pay more than what you would do if you took a cab at 2 o'clock in the afternoon. So they're actually combining these technologies, building it into customer pricing. And Delta Miles is another example that you would have all noticed. In the past, you would take a flight and then it would take up to a week for your activity to post into your account. So now they have linked all their systems right to the customer account, the app that you see on your phone. The minute your plane takes off, your miles post. Some of these upgraded applications. But where we're seeing cloud emerge as a big winner is as an equalizer. If you have the small and medium businesses that do not have the ability to have their own data center, build their own solutions, have smaller teams, fewer resources, now we are able to harness the infrastructure of larger companies with OpEx investments. And then we can offset that with efficiencies. But knowing the good, bad, and the ugly, how do we get there? Getting onto the cloud is still a gray cloud. And how do we get there? I think this picture really tells us we're going every different direction. While this answer really is more personal, it depends on where you are in the journey. What I tried to show you is a couple of different options that you can look at. When can we do this? So the timing is one important thing. When can you get started? And this is something I often hear about. Do we have to scrap our entire systems and go for something new? Well, there's several trigger points. I call them catalytic situations. So these are when your system comes up for upgrades, when you have an upgrade that is due on one location, that's a good place to start. So you can start an implementation there with that setup. What we're also seeing in the market now is strategic shifts in almost every industry. In the automotive industry, we're seeing this big move from the internal combustion engines to the electric vehicles. So the entire production is revamped. There's new setups are happening. In almost every other manufacturing segment, we're seeing nearshoring. We're seeing this in IT, in infrastructure. With COVID, with the supply chain crisis, the companies now want to have better backup, better access to their customer, to the market, to the materials. So nearshoring is a big concept. So we are seeing a lot of business ventures open up regionally. So this is another opportunity. And then expansions are another piece. So semiconductor industry is expanding big time in the United States, in Europe. So this is another place where you can start with these expansions and then integrate the rest in time. The last one is, I think, over the last 3 decades, I've had one opportunity to rethink the entire enterprise model. It usually happens either when you're going through an M&A, a restructuring, or building a new product line business from scratch across the globe. So this is a good opportunity. This opportunity doesn't last long, but it does give you the ability to rethink your entire enterprise model. So these are some points where you can start working on moving to the cloud. The second is, so where would you do that if you had the opportunity? My preference would be to start with the core technologies of your main ERP. This is where most of your data resides. You make all this data accessible to everybody in the company, and you make it very agile. That beats most of the issues that we see with staying with redundant data. The second place where you can look at is reporting layers. Not every company is at a stage of business where they can afford to change their entire ERP. So in those cases, reporting layers that sit in the middle also offer good solutions. These are your BI tools. These can be any of your financial consolidation systems that also pushes up data. These systems today are becoming more sophisticated, offer you more ability to store data in the slices or segments that you want to really measure your business in. The last piece is your analytical tools. Though the data is not sitting on the source data, however, these tools today is where you can use your existing infrastructure and layer on a third-party software as a service where you need to build advanced analytics. And this tool actually is becoming more and more popular. It's become a multi-billion-dollar market. There's many options available to us today, and I'm sure you'll hear quite a few today as well as we go through. Now, the last part is, how do I get there? This last month, I looked at the number of projects that were submitted to us in the IT steering committee, and there were 217 rows for technology investments. We're still in April. We have most of the year to go. So how do you pick the right projects to invest in? Some tips are here. I think one way to look at it is what products or services need to continuously change to meet the market. It makes more sense to be agile in that area. And the second would be, where is it that we need more data for decision making, but is not available in a timely fashion? So these questions are designed to give you some thoughts to see where can you focus on building these cloud platforms. So while I leave you with this page, I also want to open it up to some questions here, see if there's anything that you want to ask, or just use information to roll out your cloud technology. I do hope with some of these tips, you're able to get a little farther. From all these pages, I think if you were to pick up at least one nugget and explore it in the business, I think this presentation would be really successful.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Niharuna. I'm happy to review some of the questions that came through. This first question asks, what is the key criteria that CFOs should consider when evaluating different types of cloud solutions for their finance teams?
So I think this last page actually tells you what are the criteria that you need to look at for your cloud solutions. It really depends on where you are in your business model. How much of a change are you ready to take on now? And where do you struggle as an organization? As an industry, we struggle really in getting real-time data and analysis. And the data that we have, a lot of it is legacy data. It's not shaped in the way that we need to use for our business today. So in those cases, if you focus on either analytics or reporting, that's where you get the most benefit of. In some cases, if you struggle in investments, again, there will be a time where you start looking at how can you turn your requirements or systems into a service that you can utilize from the experts. Yeah. The one other thing I see is really the resource. The resource challenge is becoming more real every day. You have the new generation of finance professionals that come out from universities. They are trained more to go into this modern world of finance, yeah, than the legacy systems. So they come in ready to work these problems where analysis of reporting layers um, are available from modern technology. So that's another place where you want to look at your existing infrastructure and see if it fits the modern generation of the company.
Excellent. Thank you. This next question, how do public, private, and hybrid cloud solutions differ in terms of security and data access for finance teams?
Yeah. Um, yeah, like I mentioned before, there's the data security, the compliance, they are still big questions. Yeah, it's not a solved problem yet. However, there is a lot of advancements being made. Like I said, the IT industry now, if you listen to any to your CIOs, or if you sit in conferences, zero trust architecture is a big deal. Yeah, they're all working on that. So, what does that even mean to any of us? As CFOs, we're super cautious of where we put our data, how much access do we give systems, right? And what we're now looking at is a mirror, really. We want to use tools that require us to combine our historical data with market intelligence. And you have to open up some of your data to get the most out of this tool. So really, the decision will depend on where do you need these solutions, and how much data are you willing to take in that aligns with your legacy data. I think that's how you want to look at your cloud solutions. Hybrid seems like the obvious answer in this case, but more and more companies, I believe, over the next several years, will continue to lean towards a private cloud. Because what I see from the finance community, we want to make sure that our data is secure, and we want to make sure that the people that are using it, uh, they are also exposed to some form of consistency when changes are made across the cloud. And until such time that we enhance our skill set of our teams, upgrade their skills to understand cloud and technology, I think the move from going to public clouds versus staying private or even stepping into the hybrid, I think that's going to be um, a decision we take as we keep moving through this process.
Great, thank you. Looks like we have time for at least one last question. What strategies can CFOs employ to ensure a smooth transition to cloud-based finance processes, considering potential resistance from internal stakeholders and/or regulatory concerns?
Yeah, I saw that question come up, and I was instantly drawn to that too. That's well, I'd like to start by saying welcome to my day, right? So some of the things you can look at is when you move to cloud-based finance processes, there's several tools that you can use. Not every not every tool requires a complete change from internal stakeholders. So what we have, at least the experiences that I have, what we have done is we've started with BI tools. They are an immediate return on investment to the internal stakeholders, because you get reports faster, you get more transparency of data, and within your team itself, it saves you a lot of time. So it's a one-time effort. You push the data, you clean the data, you set it up, and now you're upgrading your team's skill set to analyze that data. And everybody in the company gets to see the data uh, anytime they want to. They get to drill down the multiple layers of information that they want to look at. So I think that's been one of the tools that has worked really well in understanding or even reducing the resistance from internal stakeholders. Now, these tools lately, they have increased in the capabilities that they have. Now, we've gone from writing our own SQL reports to now using self-service BI tools. Yeah, Power BI is now embedded in everything. Now, when I use my email, Power BI wants to tell me how many times I read different emails or what did I do with my emails. So I think these tools are embedding into our daily life, and I think that's also helping us move faster as a group.
Thank you so much for such an incredible session. I also want to thank everyone else for joining us today. This session, along with all of today's content, will be made available on demand following the event. This does officially conclude the Argyle Financial Controller Leadership Forum. Thank you again for joining us and engaging in our content. We look forward to seeing you at the next Argyle Finance event soon. Thank you again and have a great rest of your day.